Well, the Bombers capture a win in preseason week number 1. Welcome inside season 2 debut of Game Day After Dark. Matinee game, still light outside. We got those after dark vibes flowing here around the bonfire. Thanks for joining us. Darrin Bauming, joined as always by the Schnitz. Zach Schnitzer, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you back.
Good to see you too. I'm doing great. I'm feeling all steamy and hot around the bonfire and excited to see all our fire starters this year. And yeah, let's go.
Absolutely. Yeah, a couple people in the live chat, Trevor Thompson saying I'm in preseason mode too. Fair enough. Trying to get some fancy new software going here on Bonfire Sports, but appreciate all of you hanging out, checking it out, and supporting the channel. Had a great time with Chris Walby on the pregame show, Game Day Winnipeg, as we always do. We'll go live early afternoon, mid-afternoon, the day before every game, but of course live and on demand, available to you on podcast, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, you name it, LinkedIn. I don't know if this one's going to LinkedIn. I think there was a blip, but Game Day After Dark. Zach, you're going to join me a lot this season, and then our weekly show, we are going to get it going this coming Wednesday, Bonfire Midweek, which is going to be a ton of fun, as it always is. Love doing the show with you, man. And people love checking out the show too. How was your off season? Before we get into the Blue Bombers off season, their win 25-23 today. Terrell Pigram we'll talk about. Matt Cole, some goofiness on the field. Even some first team offense sightings with Zach Collaros at the helm, getting a couple touchdowns going. But how are you, man? Tell me about yourself. People want to know.
I'm doing great. What can I say? My 2-year-old's almost 3, so the older he gets, the easier it gets. He's a manimal. He's an animal. He's whipped the iPad at my wife's head this morning before I even got up. So he's taken after his dad. Big question for me is, do I keep the beard? Do I grow the beard to look like your twin, Darrin, or do I
probably
shave
have enough to share at this point.
Well, I saw you whip out that beard brush, and for those of you who don't know, a beard brush is essential when you have a beautiful bushy beard like Darrin. You need a beard brush.
Yeah, it was about $6 at the drugstore. That very fancy beard bruch. But
I have one too. I also have some beard.
I
have some beard wax too. Anyway, nice to see everybody. I'm doing great. And Sandy, of course, got the mug here.
Oh,
baby.
Yes.
Love it.
Mine's in the other room, so I'm not going to get up and get it, but I've already thanked Sandy in person. So sweet. Great to see her and everybody else who's been checking out Bonfire and coming to say hello at Bombers practice, throughout training camp, and the rest. I sent out a tweet today. So here's the deal. Very simple. You're going to see it on the ticker below. That's the Bonfire Hotline number, 816-TIPS, 816-8477. 204-816-8477. If you text me your name and your email address, I'll send you the password and the link, but you'll need the password in order to download the Bonfire Sports annual way too early depth chart. It will become just the singular way too early depth chart next week going into preseason game number 2. And then it'll be the too early depth chart going into week 1 with the Hamilton Tiger Cats against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. But either way, with that document, you're going to be able to see kind of who all these new guys are, where they fit, where they might be competing. Who stood out to you today, Zach? Everybody else out there, hit up the live chat. Let us know who you liked, who you didn't like, what you saw. Hit up those comments. And while you're there, give a thumbs up. Just do it. Go ahead. You can do it. It's easy. Click, click.
I thought a bunch of guys stood out. I mean, I'm still not clear if that last attempted walk-off field goal was blocked by Caleb Thomas. I think it was number 52. He had a sack earlier in the game for a big loss, and if he blocked that, that's a big standout moment for him. But I don't think we have clarification on that yet.
No, we don't. And I don't know if we're going to get it.
So, right. It's preseason.
And even the stats were kind of spotty today, so I can't even throw a whole bunch of stats at you guys like I normally do. I have a bunch of Edmonton-Elks stats if you want to know. Taylor Cornelius going 68%, or pardon me, Kyle Oxley going 68%, 183 yards and a touch. Trey Ford Tyrell, his brother, his twin
Right.
brother, ran a whole bunch of times. Didn't look super comfortable in the pocket, but made some things happen in his first appearance in his second season. But for the Blue Bombers, I mean, I'm really encouraged. I think everybody should be really encouraged by Piggy T, they call him.
Piggy T.
Terrell Pigram, number 3. I told you, all you guys that have been watching or following on social media, I told you the body type is just like Kevin Glenn, but man, this guy has got wheels. He can
Holy.
throw the football too, as you saw on that 2nd and 27 conversion that he made in the fourth quarter. Fourth quarter. But what an athlete this guy is. I don't know if today secured that third string job, but it made the decision for the Blue Bombers
Yeah.
possibly a lot more difficult as they try to replace Dakota Prukop in that short yardage quarterback spot.
Yeah, that's well said, Darren. And I think he may have gone. I'm not going to say he secured it, but he went a long way in putting his name in bold. Let's just say. I mean, that 45-yard run was a thing of beauty. The way he accelerated to the house, it was incredible. I just thought it was going to be a quarterback sneak. He couldn't find anyone, but you saw him going through his progressions as well. He didn't just run like many running QBs do. He went through his progressions and ran when he had to, and that acceleration was phenomenal. So I think, and then he had that big throw to Jeremy Murphy on, what was it, 2nd and 27 after
Yeah.
the bad snap. I mean,
Yeah.
I thought he looked like, maybe Kolaris gets the nod for the best quarterback showing there with his nice pass to Lawler, but I thought Piggy T really stole the show tonight.
Couldn't agree more. Oh, and you know what?
That was
We're
such a
still
good comment that I got some
we're
music. That was just gonna drop the mic there and end the show. The chain is here, but it's not. Chain doesn't come out till the regular season, folks.
yeah.
Waiters.
We're gonna iron out the wrinkles here.
Yeah, yeah.
Trying to give you guys a dynamic program. If you're listening on podcast, appreciate you guys subscribing and downloading. Podcast numbers have been off the charts, which is just so encouraging to see. Appreciate everybody out there, and I'm not just saying that. We appreciate you listening, and of course, part of that is giving it up for our sponsors, including Shannon's Irish Pub, 175 Carlton Street. If you've never been, you need to go. Pure eclectic atmosphere, unique and just frankly awesome. It's under the streets, 175 Carlton, just a saucer pass down from the rink, just a block and a half from True North Square. Jets games, Bombers games, before and after, game day specials, tons of beers on tap, cocktails. They've got your great selection of whiskeys and scotches and the rest. And the food. Well, it's the food, Zach, that I think is maybe easy to overlook when you're talking about an Irish pub, but not here. We encourage you to get out there and check out some of their great food choices, way beyond pub food. But if you're listening on podcast, we're trying all these new things. So forgive it. Head over to youtube.com/bonfire sports, subscribe there, hit the thumbs up, all of those good things that helps the algorithm. It helps get the message out there. It helps grow the channel, and it helps our sponsors that support us. So go check them out at Shannon's Irish Pub. We got a couple more sponsors coming on board this year too, but OG was Shannon's. I think Terrell Pigram
Mm,
is a completely different physical makeup than Dakota Prukop, than Chris Streveler. I don't know if anybody compares to Chris Streveler, really, at least not at the quarterback position traditionally. But if he gets the job done and provides that same run and pass threat that
yeah,
those two quarterbacks that I just mentioned had, Winnipeg's
yeah.
previous, short yardage guys, then you can be effective. I don't want to remind everybody of the Grey Cup, but I don't want to hang a loss on one guy, but there was there were those interceptions that
Yeah.
that Dakota Prukop threw. Now Winnipeg was trying to get spicy and a little creative and catch the Argos on their heels a little bit, and it bit them it bit themselves in the behind. But you know, that's part of what you want in that short yardage quarterback, that he is a threat to throw the football. If Terrell Pigram can, put one and two together, I don't mean to, say like, oh, it's that easy, but if he can put the run skill and the pass skill together, this is looking like a nice little tool in Buck
DB
Pierce's tool belt.
DB, they say in football you can't teach speed. And that speed that he
Mm-hmm.
showed was off the charts. I mean, I went to get a sip of my drink and I look back and he's in the end zone. It went so fast that I missed it. And this team, going back to the Paul LaPolice offense, traditionally runs that third quarterback as a running third down wedge package specialist. But if that quarterback has an arm like Prukop did, although you mentioned the Grey Cup blunder, then it really adds an intriguing weapon to the arsenal of that QB room for the Bombers. Because if he can run like that, and I don't even think Prukop could run like that. This was, I mean,
Oh,
wow.
come on. I'm gonna challenge you
I
there.
don't know if he was that fast though, DB. Was he
Uh,
that fast?
Maybe not quite that fast in the wide open
Oof.
field, but Dakota Prukop could run. It wasn't just
Oh,
like he was
yeah.
apt at it. He had speed. His last year with the Edmonton Elks, like their highlight of the year in that terrible year they had 2 years ago before Prukop joined the Bombers, his 44-yard touchdown run against Winnipeg was their highlight of the year.
Yeah.
So,
No,
you
he
know,
had
it,
running skills. I just don't know
oh
if he
yeah,
had that speed. But I just think it's an intriguing weapon to have in your arsenal, completely unlike Drew Brown and Zach Collaros. So I don't know. How do you think Josh Jones looked? I thought he looked okay. He
yep.
took a sack that maybe he needed to throw the ball away on. He looked a little bit slow, but that was it's like, oh crap, I have to go right after Piggy. It's like when you do a speech and someone kills it at a
Right.
wedding and you're the next one, right? And Piggy
Like
just
you
killed it.
gotta like you gotta follow Dave
Oh, I gotta
Chappelle on
follow that,
stage.
he probably says to Piggy.
Be like, hey, give us 15 minutes on stage. You're up after Chappelle. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
sure. I'll
right,
be
exactly.
no problem. Uh, I- you know, However, the Blue Bombers quarterback situation behind Zach Collaros and Drew Brown, however that shakes out, um, I wonder if they'll have space or allot the space on the practice roster for that other quarterback.
Mm,
In years past, it's, who is that heir apparent? Who is that quarterback of the future? And it is Drew Brown. It has been, it will continue to be throughout this final year on his contract. Will he want to sign to continue to learn and develop under Zach Collaros? Or at the end of this season, you never know what you're going to get through a season, how much playing time he gets, could be a bunch, could be none. Whether he goes and signs a contract to be a starting quarterback with another team, and what that money might be like. If it's $350,000, 325, kind of that like low end show me contract for CFL quarterbacks, or if somebody's willing to give him 400 plus, um, you know, you could see in the CFL, there could be a team that's desperate and
mhm.
throws a whole bunch of money at Drew Brown, because why not? If you're that desperate to find somebody, look at the league right now. Look at the lack of quarterbacking. Um, we might be surprised as the season goes on, but right now it looks like Zach Collaros and Jeremiah Masoli and nobody else.
I I'm smiling, Darren, because what you're describing is exactly like being desperate is exactly where the Bombers were in 2014 and
Right.
2013. You
That's when
remember
they threw a
guys like,
bunch of money at Collaros and he
yep,
signed with Hamilton. They threw a bunch of money at Henry Burris. He
yep.
signed with Ottawa, and
I mean,
Drew Willie came to town.
we're the team that has the Drew Willie, right? We're the team that has that backup. We're the team that's the new Calgary Stampeders, right? We have a backup quarterback that will be coveted. If he's, you've been high on him since the very beginning. So, and you've said that other teams have said good things about him as well. So, it's funny that we're in that position now. It's the opposite.
Don't smash your piggy bank. Take
Piggy,
Piggy to the
piggy,
bank.
Piggy to the
Uh,
bank. But yeah, I'm intrigued by what Piggy did today. I think, some guys really turn it on when the lights go on, right? Things are faster and more furious in actual live game action than they are in training camp. And Piggy might be one of those guys. We'll see on June 2nd. He might want to be one of those guys that really turns it on in the bright lights.
yeah, we're gonna be able to talk about this all week. You'll join me Wednesday. We'll go live. What 7:30 Wednesday, Zach?
Yeah, yeah, for sure, buddy. I
Season two
think we'll do
premiere.
Wednesdays unless you have a game on Thursday, which the Bombers have a few, because you and the big guy will be on.
Yeah, and I think there's one with the Sea Bears too that I
Uh,
might have a conflict, but we'll straighten it out. Generally speaking, you're not going to miss us if you tune in Wednesdays at 7:30. So we'll talk about it on Bonfire midweek this week. We'll talk about it when Walby joins me for Game Day Winnipeg the day before that June 2nd Bombers home preseason opener, final preseason game. The Saskatchewan Roughriders coming to town. How
yeah,
great is that? Love when they play the Rough Riders in the preseason. It's kind of been
yeah,
an annual tradition now, but love it even more when it's here in Winnipeg.
yeah,
And then they're in town, what, like a couple weeks later,
yeah.
week two,
Week 2. That's great. It's always,
June
who cares if
16th.
it's preseason? It's always great to
Yeah.
have the Rough Riders here. But you would ask me, who stood out. So obviously Piggy stands out. A couple other guys I'll throw at you is Abu Soiree. I
Abu
forget
Darami Soiree,
Rami
Soiree,
Swa he
Soiree.
seemed like he was all over the field, and I think you give yourself a good shot to make a team when you can play, multiple roles on a team. So he was playing DB, and he was returning kicks. He looked pretty good returning kicks. He didn't put one on the turf. He ran straight ahead. He acquitted himself well. I also like Chandler Staten. I thought,
Just
kicking
gonna
is a
pull this up.
huge, huge, uh, yeah. It's a very
I was telling people
controversial.
before the game to watch for Chandler Staten.
Yeah. It's kicking is a massive, massive training camp battle, and I think most Bomber fans, after what we saw in the Grey Cup with the infamous missed extra point and,
That was epic.
subpar kickoffs, and a couple not so great punts, I think that's, people are really looking at this kicking game, and Staten calmly hit all his PATs and his field goal, and his kickoffs too, Darrin, were something that sort of stood out to me because they were landing around the 5-yard line of Edmonton, and I thought I was looking to see the kickoff range of this guy, and I was happy with that. Whereas, especially in the Grey Cup, I thought Legio's kickoffs were, guys were catching them around the 15 or 20-yard line. And I know you look at net yardage on those things, and you're looking at your what's best for your return team, but the 5 is the 5. So I liked what I saw from Staten today. What did you think of him?
Well, I've seen good from him for a long time, and I wanted to see more of that today, and we saw more of that today. Uh, you just break it down to brass tacks. Where does he fit?
Yeah.
I don't know if he's a punter. I don't think he's going to be the guy that is going to, pardon the on the nose pun, boot Mark Leggio from that punting spot. I am confident Mark Leggio will be the punter for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers this season. I'm fairly
Is that right?
confident. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I'm fairly confident. I'm just as confident that Sergio Castillo will be the field goal kicker. So for Chandler Staten, is he going to be okay on the practice roster waiting for an opportunity? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe he's trade bait. Maybe somebody plucks him off the practice roster and activates him right away. It's easy to do that with a kicker, you know?
I yeah, I'm surprised to hear you say Leggio is you're confident he'll be the punter because I thought that they were really auditioning these two guys, and I don't know how much it matters that a Canadian how much does it matter in terms of roster management that a Canadian is your punter
I would
in
say
Leggio?
it's, to maybe put it fairly, it's a luxury to have Canadian specialists, right? You would like a Canadian long snapper. Most teams have a Canadian long snapper. You would like a Canadian kicker and a Canadian punter, but you don't need them. You just
Yeah.
have to make adjustments elsewhere. And Michael Shea spoke to that just a couple days ago, that, there's lots of different things you can do with the roster. Winnipeg is incredibly deep. So if they got to put another Canadian out there on special teams, I don't think that's a big deal. If they got to put 2 or 3 more Canadians out there on special teams, I don't think that's a big deal. They're deep. They're deep at Canadian. Obviously, the 49er rule will be in this year.
Yeah.
By that, I mean the naturalized Canadian. Zach, you and I have been talking and debating and bandying about this topic off air for weeks now, trying to figure out how this is going to work. I call them the 49ers because these are the American veterans that are allowed to become quote unquote naturalized Canadians, uh, if to replace a Canadian in the ratio
Right.
for 49% of plays, no more than that. The CFL approved this a year ago. It seems like forever ago, but can you believe we nearly had a work stoppage in the CFL a year ago in training camp? Like,
I had forgotten about that actually.
it's nuts. But during that time where they ironed it out, great that they got a, what was it, 6-7 year collective bargaining agreement in place. They agreed on this naturalized Canadian rule, but my contacts at the Canadian Football League are telling me that not all the I's are dotted, not all the T's are crossed, and not everybody is on the same page of how it's going to work. So they're
Mm,
trying to figure that out and hammer it out and have something concrete for CFL kickoff 2023 when the regular
yeah.
season gets going. But that 49er rule, those Americans that are veteran enough can replace Canadians. So it changes a lot of things
Yeah.
with the designated import, with your roster makeup, with your ratio on offense, defense, special teams, the rest. For those that don't know, it will be a naturalized Canadian is a American veteran player that has at least 3 years experience with their current team. That means they're in their fourth season. They have 3 years behind them. They're in their fourth season with their current team. They would be eligible to be a naturalized Canadian, or 5 years behind them in their sixth year in the CFL. If that's the case, the team can identify. I believe they'll have. See, this is part that still needs to be ironed out. I think it's 2 or 4 will be identified. I think it'll be 2. They'll be identified on the game day roster as those naturalized Canadians. Then they will be able to come in for a Canadian. Say something happens to Jake Thomas or something happens to Drew Wolodarski, they'll
Yeah.
be able to put an American in that spot. Or another thing that still needs to be ironed out that I haven't received full clarity on, if Jake Thomas goes down at defensive tackle, can you adjust the ratio elsewhere and put a Canadian at a different position on defense and put an American in Jake Thomas's spot? Or does that naturalized Canadian need to go where Jake Thomas is? The good thing here in all of this, Zach, is that this is on YouTube and podcast. So if you were confused, as you probably are in all of this, you can go back and listen to it a second time. Or maybe you don't want to. Maybe you just want to,
Well,
move
y-
on and try to enjoy the game for what it is. But if you're
it
one of those
is.
ratio nerds,
Yeah. Oh, when you
this is
talk
your
about
year.
designated imports, right? That's when things get a little bit confusing to some. It's a bit of a labyrinth, but it's interesting to me. Just I know we'll talk about this more on midweek, but you said if Jake Thomas goes down. Well, what if someone doesn't have to go down? What if it's sort of like your silver bullet? Like let's say you want to sub in your naturalized Canadian for Drew Wolodarski
Right,
and you bring in Rashid Bailey. So then you have,
right.
all American, 4 or 5 American receivers. So it there's a lot of permutations to this that and someone on the chat said this, like, how are they going to track this? That's another thing, right? Like
They apparently
that's how
hired they've
wow.
hired the officials for it, that they're watching during the game, and they've been doing that for the last couple of years. bolstered that staff.
Right,
So
you'd need that. You'd
it'll
need
be
someone to
interesting.
track that.
It'll
So
be
it'll
interesting.
be interesting. But Lynn's head is hurting, so we'll move off that. But we were talking about
Sorry,
kickers,
Lynn.
and the Schmitz, Carl Schmitz, almost had an all-world punt. He booted it like 50 something yards, and it hit, what did it hit, like the 1 or 2 yard line, and there was a backspin on it. This was in the fourth quarter. Him and Jamison Sheehan were sort of trading off reps at punter, and Schmitz, it bounced on the 1 or 2 yard line and did a backspin,
Hmm.
and it just happened to hit one of the Elks players on the foot. So then it was a single point, but it would have been one of the best punts I've ever seen, sort of end over end. Wow. That I was so disappointed when it hit one of the Elks and it just ended up being a single because it rolled back into the end zone.
Yeah, it's amazing what these kickers can do, and you hope, you mentioned silver bullet. You hope that one of these global kickers has that silver bullet, has that little tricky spin tactic they can do, and you pull it out at the right time if they're good enough to do it and be able to do it, well on command. That's a great weapon to have, especially with a special teams focused team like Mike O'Shea's Blue Bombers, right? It would really be something. So the when the Blue Bombers signed Sergio Castillo, everyone's like, "Oh, the kicking controversy is over." Well, I think part of it was, but not all of it. They draft these two globals. They bring in an American in Chandler Staten who looks to be a pretty capable field goal kicker, and now they've got options, which is the good problem to have versus last year not having options, maybe not a good problem. It's a bad problem to have. So we'll see how that all shakes out. This coming week is going to be fascinating, Zach. The roster deadline is early in training camp, like 3-4 days into camp. They have to chop down to 75 plus non-counters. What's a non-counter? Pretty much draft picks or Canadian rookies that haven't played in the league. The next roster deadline is essentially just their week one roster, so they'll have to form their practice roster of 10. They'll have their injured lists. We already know a couple guys are on the injured list, namely Teadric Hansen starting on the 6th game, and Kyrie Wilson starting on the 6th game. So two big contributors on the Blue Bombers defense. Let's talk about the defense, because there was a couple guys there that I was watching for today, Zach, and it's tough in the preseason. It's tough to watch guys on defense because the coaches in their analysis of them, they're going to be looking at plays where they're not even the guy making the tackle or making the pass defense. It's going to be
Right.
away from the ball a lot of the time. So it's hard to say this guy was great or this guy wasn't very good when you don't know what he did, the other 90% of the time. But linebacker, defensive back, defensive line, Winnipeg's going to be looking for some guys.
Yeah. Looking at that D early on, well, it was one of the incumbents, not one of the new guys that really impressed me, and that was Alden Darby, because they had a lot of the starters, our dime backer who of course plays, if you're the Sam linebacker, you play more of a coverage role. I thought Darby was all over the field. But one guy I was really looking at was Evan Holm. He's a
Mm-hmm.
guy who everyone is saying was a real standout at training camp. One guy even said he was the MVP of training camp, and he had a nice pass breakup, did home, and then later on in the game, he had a nice tackle. So I thought he played really well. I could see why they were high on him. I think Mike O'Shea said he had the best feet of a DB he'd ever seen.
Mm,
I'm not smart enough to catch someone's footwork, but
me neither.
that's the O'Shea isn't usually one prone to hyperbole. So I mean, I was surprised to hear him say something like that, which is such a glowing review. But hey,
He gives
if
us he
O'Shea
gives
says,
us a little nugget of insight once in a while. He'll say something and be like, "Oh, actually, that was." So often I'm in my car driving home from the stadium on a Wednesday afternoon at practice, and I'm like, That was actually kind of interesting. So often he's guarded,
Oh, yeah.
the Blue Bombers head coach, famously guarded. But man, once in a while, Evan Holm came here to Winnipeg last season. I didn't think he played particularly well, you know, on defense. He
No,
was
he didn't
okay.
stand out.
Yeah, he was okay returning kicks. He started a handful of games. Jamal Parker stepped in. He started 9 games for Winnipeg. Demario Houston getting hurt, but he was really good when he was healthy, effectively stealing Winston Rose's boundary
Right.
cornerback spot. Now Rose is a little bit nicked up, and we'll see if he's ready for game one. Maybe we'll talk about that in a second, Zach. Some of the guys that might be in question, in addition to the two on the 6-game injured list to start the year. But you know, Winnipeg is going to have to find some guys that are going to be ready to play quickly. Yeah, it's a deep team, and all the boys are back, and the rest, like Winnipeg has done a great job doing. But if Rose is banged up, or if Adam Bighill is banged up, or some of these, they're going to need to find, is it Barrington Wade, a rookie that's
Right.
made some noise? Is it Matt Cole? We saw him, I thought, fearlessly running, the return game for the Blue Bombers today. I thought he was great. Is it Abu Darami Soiree? I hope I'm getting that right.
I think you got it. Yeah.
Soiree, yeah. Okay, good. I'm happy. I'm happy about that. What do we got? What are his initials? ADS. Are we just going to call
Ads.
him ADS? I don't know.
Yeah, we could. I mean, you introduced Brandon O'Leary Orange as Bolo,
Right.
so I think you've got a history here of monikers, attaching monikers. So let's go. Let's call him ADS. That would be much easier.
Okay. Well,
Much much easier.
yeah, Soleiman Karamoko, a second-year global. I believe
Yeah.
it's his second year, it might be third, for the Blue Bombers in the, big guy.
Yeah.
He's got some nice size and versatile. So, uh, I think Winnipeg has some options, but um, Evan Holm, I think, is based on the camp he's had, what everybody has said about him, including the head coach. I think it's a really good thing when you bring a guy back for a second year and he is really opening eyes the way that Evan Holm has.
Yeah.
I think it makes things a lot less anxiety ridden for Jordan Younger, the Blue Bombers defensive backs coach, DC Richie Hall and his staff, and obviously the general manager Kyle Walters.
Yeah, and Matt, you're talking about Matt Cole, who is returning kicks.
Mhm.
Matt Cole is the DB, whereas Brian Cole is the linebacker,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
Matt Cole,
I
number
liked what
6.
I write I liked what both I like what both Coles brought to the table tonight. To be honest with you,
Mhm.
um, Brian Cole had a really nice tackle in the fourth quarter. Um, I had him down, and if Denis is watching, I have my stuff written out now again on my little call sheet. But he had a couple nice tackles. Brian Cole, I wrote him down in the second quarter. He had a nice tackle, and in the preseason game, that's where they can finally look at tackling. Right? They want to see that when when the pads are on and the lights are on, can you actually tackle? Because I think that's where some guys sort of move ahead of the pack and other guys sort of fall off. And I thought Brian Cole was solid on his tackles, and yeah, Matt Cole was there too.
Yeah, I think they got a couple nice pieces of coal in their stocking. Oh, uh,
Oh,
but
Darrin's in mid-season form
no,
or
that was
not? I don't
weak.
know.
No, 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 no. That was a throwaway play, one that we're not going to be looking at too many times in the film room. Okay,
Okay, well,
uh,
fine. We do
but
look at film, folks.
yeah, yeah, as much as we can.
What about
Um,
Barrington Wade? He was a guy, so was playing middle linebacker at the
mhm.
beginning of the game. He was a guy who everyone was high on, and some people talking about him as maybe an heir apparent to Biggie sometime down the road, not now. How do you think he showed? I know it's hard to tell in a preseason
Well,
game.
we said this about Malik Clements. We've said this about Kyrie Wilson, the heir apparent, for Adam Big Hill down the road. Um, I think for the most part, like football experts will disagree with this, but I will say for the most part, the weak side and the middle linebacker spot, pretty interchangeable, especially in Winnipeg's system. I think there are some guys they wouldn't put at weak side, but they would put at middle, like a Shane Gauthier. Uh, but Malik Clements came in here last year as a second-year CFLer, looked really good, got better every game in my opinion, and was really good come playoffs. Kyrie Wilson, we know how good he is. He's
Oh,
probably, prior to his injury last year, Zach, you and I talked about how he was criminally underrated in the
and you know what,
CFL.
Darren? I know I'm interrupting, but I have to
No,
because I was
yeah.
at the Taste of the Blue Bombers. It was a great event, by the way, folks. They'll do it again next year. You got to go. They had it must have been 10 or 12 restaurants, local restaurants, and each one had an offering, and you got to eat it and vote on which one was the best. And then there was special drinks and desserts. And there was players and personalities walking around the concourse like Kyrie Wilson and Teatric Hansen. I ran into them, and I told Kyrie Wilson that he was having an unbelievable year. The guy is like, I didn't realize this. The guy is huge. Like sometimes you don't know when you're in the stands as a fan, but you encounter someone like Kyrie Wilson up close. The guy is absolutely jacked.
Well,
Very humble too. Very, because I was telling him how good he was. He's like, no, 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 Malik Clements, he's doing well in my spot. I'm like, no, dude, he's not Kyrie Wilson.
yeah, I mean, you're probably right, but what a nice option to have behind
Yeah,
Kyrie Wilson. And if Barrington Wade can become, that next in the line and be somebody that can develop into a starter, I think that's a really good thing. Maybe it's Brian Cole. We'll have to see. These preseason games are so difficult to really sink your teeth into who shone, who didn't, who's on the outside looking in, or vice versa. But keep hitting up the live chat, or if you're watching afterwards, or you're on podcast, text the Bonfire Hotline 204-816-TIPS, 816-8477. It's just like texting your mama. No difference there as far as your standard message rates and the rest. And I'm seeing lots of people hitting the thumbs up on the YouTube video too. That's awesome. Keep doing that, guys. We appreciate it. But jump into the comments, jump into the live chat. Who did you like? Who are you hoping has a breakout game or makes the team? I'm really curious to see some of that. Jeff Kabila's, I think him and I are on the same page with waiting for Brendan O'Leary Orange to have that breakout game. I think he's somebody that can steal a job in the starting receiving core. He's big, he's athletic, not a burner, but very talented football player, and didn't have the greatest you know luck with the ball today, but he has shown the ability to make some tough catches.
they were certainly trying to highlight him, or do you think that was intentional? They seemed to go at him a bunch early on in the game. I mean, I don't, we don't have the great stats, but it looked
Mhm.
like he he had like what 6, 7 balls thrown at him early into the game, including from Zach Kalaris. So I wonder if they were really trying to see what he was all about. I mean, they got a glimpse last year, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I didn't
It
I didn't lead you very well there, buddy. You're
Well, no, no, they did get a look at him last year. He dressed for a lot of games. I don't I He might have started a couple,
I think
but
he started a couple, yeah.
yeah, I was just reading Waiter's comment here about you dropping names.
Oh,
Oh, I'm
yeah.
just hanging out with Kyrie Wilson, and I'm
Oh,
like,
I'm just getting started. I mean, but listen, it's easy to drop names if you go to that Taste of the Bombers event. There were players all over the place. Danny Mack was walking around, Wade Miller, Kyle Walters and his wife were oh yeah, it was I could drop names all day, baby. I got lots of autographs on my jersey, let's just say.
you're one of those, eh? You're one of
Yeah,
those
but
name
but they went
droppers, and then
after
you'll
they went
show you the
after
names.
Bolo tons of times in this game.
Mhm.
I don't have I lost count. I thought it was like 6 or 7. He had a couple catches. He missed a couple, but it's preseason.
Yeah.
Yes,
I
he also had a run. He also had a 10-yard run on a sweep, didn't he?
He did.
It was actually pretty nice. He's a
Yep.
big dude. I again, I'll drop names. I saw him at that event. He's a big dude.
He's for a receiver, he's really big.
He's
It's
big.
funny though, like you mentioned Kyrie Wilson, oh, he's big.
Yeah.
Oh, Bolo, he's big. But you're talking about all these guys being there with Teodric Hansen. Teodric Hansen
Oh,
is
yeah.
a monster.
Oh my god.
Like it's crazy how
Yeah.
formidable he is in
Yeah.
person.
He's
Uh,
chiseled out of granite, that
well,
guy.
that too. Yeah. I mean,
German granite.
what a global for the Blue Bombers to snag. Hey, like,
Oh,
man.
yeah. Well, you could argue that couldn't you argue he's the best global that we've ever seen in the CFL? Teodric, I mean, he's a rotational pass rusher on the dark side defense. I mean,
Mhm,
when we lost that guy, it really affected the Bombers' ability to rush the passer,
mhm.
I thought. And I told him that when I'm dropping his name. Is Zach small? Says Bomber fan. Yes, I am. Everybody looks big to me. I'm 5'7" on a, you
5'7"
know, 5'7" on a good day with a shoe, you know.
with the shoe.
With the shoe, I'm 5'7".
See, you should get some cleats, and you can get some nice 2-inch
Yeah,
pegs in there,
then
and
I'd surpass 5'7". I mean, I don't the
yeah.
world would be my oyster, but, yeah, sure
Derek brings up, what's going on, Derek? Good to see you in the live chat. Thanks for joining. Derek says our starters played a ton
yeah.
more than I was expecting. We looked great until they all came out. Good start. I think Lawler will have a monster
Oh, yeah.
year. Um, all good points.
Yeah.
Were you surprised to see that many,
I
Kolaris
was
and the
really
guys play as much as they did?
I was actually shocked, and I kinda felt dumb. I'm like, "I didn't see this coming." Like, I know that, Colares traveled with the team, but I thought he was traveling just more maybe he'd get a couple series, but I thought he was maybe there to coach up the young guys. Um,
In
but
the
yeah, I was
words of
shocked.
Chris Walby on the pregame show, what a waste of tape.
Yeah, I remember that was a great line by Walby. He was in midseason form. I love that show, buddy. Great job with you and Walby. If you haven't yet, check it out the game day. Even though the game's already done, there's still
Oh yeah,
lots
lots
of
of good
great
talking
stuff
there.
in there to check out in the game day pregame with you and Walby. But I was shocked and you saw the starting O-line there as well. They played, also when Drew Brown came in, they were still out there, which I thought was good because it gives Brown the opportunity to see what it's like with the starting O-line, so you can actually get a sense of what he's doing, and get him a chance to get into, early season form. But I was quite surprised Kolaris was, in there for the first quarter and about 5 minutes into the second.
Yeah, I was too. I didn't think they needed to play him too much. But the fact that they did, and getting that long touchdown strike to Kenny Lawler against Lawler's former team. I think somebody I saw on Twitter, they mentioned that Kenny Lawler had like his son's school class, like the entire class there to
Oh,
watch the
really?
game. So for dad to get a touchdown, in front of all your friends is a pretty
Right.
cool thing for Kenny's kid. But
That's
um,
cool.
I liked how Winnipeg just swapped Drew Brown in for Zach Collaros. I didn't want to see too much of Drew Brown, but I also understand why Winnipeg did that. Going into the game, I mentioned with Walby, let's see more of Josh Jones. Let's see more
Yeah.
of Terrell Pigram. I say that almost in from the perspective of, well, I know what Zach Collaros brings. I know what Drew Brown brings. I want to see these new guys. But if
Yeah.
you're the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, you got to make sure QB1 is ready. And you got to
Yeah.
make sure QB2 is also ready. So it probably made a lot more sense than I theorized, or maybe hoped that the Blue Bombers had done, because I think that's important. The Bombers don't want to have to resort to Drew Brown taking. I say resort. I mean, most teams would shoot their own foot for that to be their, Drew Brown to be their number two quarterback, at
Yeah.
worst. But if Winnipeg needs Drew Brown to take meaningful offensive snaps because QB1's not available, they need to make sure that he's ready. So I get that they wanted to give him reps. The Edmonton Elks, this is their second preseason game, so they had a lot of their main guys in there against Drew Brown. So probably a good move by Winnipeg.
Yeah, it was nice to see Brown in there with the starting O line because you really want to get him to shake the rust off and actually have some time to go through his progressions. I thought he played okay. I mean, it's hard to know with the first game, right? They're shaking
Mhm.
off rust and things. I thought he looked off the middle of the field and went back to the middle and threw a ball into traffic that I thought wasn't great. Did Brown, but
Mhm.
I think it's interesting. So what do we expect now from the quarterback position in the home game against the Riders? Because now Kolaris has played a quarter plus. Does usually that's where you see your starting quarterback is in the home game. Usually they don't travel to the road game. So
Right.
will they give him a quarter? I don't even I would expect not. I think maybe he's played his quarter that he needed. He's got the touchdown out of the way to Lawler.
Yeah.
Does he need to play anymore? I don't think so. But then again, I didn't see him starting here either. So what do I know?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see. I wish I had more insight than that. Then we'll have to see. It really depends. I'll tell you what it probably depends on. It depends on what Zach Collaros wants,
Yeah.
right? If he's like, look, I need more snaps, they'll give them to him, right? I think they'll want to give Drew Brown a lot of work too. And then whatever's left over, split it between Pigram and Josh Jones and find out what you got in these guys. We know what Terrell Pigram can do with his legs. What can Josh Jones do with his legs in the short yardage? This can be tricky, Zach, because we've talked about this through the years on Bonfire. You don't show too much, especially in the preseason, but even going into the regular season, you don't show too much. And part of showing too much is how you run your wedge package, how you run your short yardage. Like, what are you exactly doing? Where are the like these coaches will watch each individual player and map out what they're doing. Are they diving left or right or down or
Hmm.
up or pushing or pulling or whatever they're doing, all of these things. So you want to run some short yardage. Pigram got a touchdown today with in the short yardage package, but you also don't want to maybe run the exact short yardage package that you're going to run when you need a first down, when you need to punch in a score. Um, this is something I wanted to mention. I so often see people comment in the preseason like, wow, they really got to work on their run game.
Hmm.
I think that's one of the easiest things to say in the preseason. And I'm not saying that as a shot to anybody who's saying that. I think it's easy to say that because y- the most vanilla of it all will be the run game, the run
Hmm.
blocking, the zone, the the entire schema of it. They are not going to show you how they're going to run the football when the regular season starts or when they're deeper into the regular season. They're going to keep it super vanilla, super straightforward. So you can't expect to have running backs go 6 yards, 7 yards, 5 yards, 7 yards, 10 yards. It's
But
probably not
the
going to
Elks
happen.
did. The Elks
Right?
did with Brown. They were getting six,
Well,
seven
that guy's a
yards on
nut.
us.
That guy is nuts. It is crazy how good he is.
So you would say that well, because our run game was struggling quite a bit, I thought, especially with our starting O line in. And so if you're saying you're not gonna see too much there, it's not really a concern.
I'm
Edmonton
I'm more
was
I
but
Go ahead.
also with the backup, their backup running back, I think it was Brooks or something.
Mhm.
He was getting 6, 7 yards a run.
Yep. Yeah. I'm not saying that's why Winnipeg wasn't able to get the run going. I'm saying it's an easy thing to say, and it's often said by those of us watching the game because it is often the case that they're not trying anything too exotic or too creative. Yeah, you're going to see Brendan O'Leary Orange on, on an outside carry, a halfback sweep or whatever. But the traditional run game, I don't think they really dig into the intricacies of a strategized run game Like it's
Yeah.
easy to just say the run game. The run game plan, there's a lot to it. Like I work in junior football with the Winnipeg Rifles, Rifle Up, great organization. The Blue Bombers support and they support back. Great partnership there. But in talking with those coaches and watching what they do in practice, and I'm doing play by play during the game, so that I'm seeing what I saw in practice through the years. A lot goes into those run games. A lot goes into that game planning. So yeah, Edmonton's run game looked good today in the preseason. Winnipeg's didn't. I'm just saying maybe it's not maybe don't take too much from it. That's all I'm saying.
Well, and you don't know if Kevin Brown was just being a freak or whether our run defense wasn't that great too. I mean, you're rotating a bunch of guys in there as well. Yeah, I don't think I'm particularly concerned by it, although it was nice to see Augustine get some touches at
Hmm.
least because he has speed to burn. He's another guy who's chiseled out of granite. I think he's a vegan too. It's one of these people that just eats plants. I should try that, especially as I near my 40th year. Yeah, I'm starting to get long in the
I
tooth,
think with
and
Johnny Augustine, I don't think I'm wrong in this this insight on him. It goes beyond being a vegan. I think he eats like incredibly clean, like
yeah,
no processed foods. Like he's not eating those, vegan frozen meals, right? He's eating like super
vegan
super
frozen
clean.
meals.
Um
Yeah, he
anyway,
doesn't have
that's what I'd
kids though.
heard.
Try eating non-processed foods when you have kids. I mean, you'd never eat anything.
Yeah.
You'd never eat anything anyway. Yeah, I'm not too concerned with the run game. Uh, uh
It's going to be a fascinating week at practice, Zach. I think, I hope you can head down. We'll have a chat at
well,
practice
yeah,
this week. That
hopefully.
would be good. We'll hang out a little bit and get a look at some of these guys um, in their final prep for their, this is their job audition, right? This is their job interview that they're in right now. So
Just speaking of running, who I thought looked really elusive and quick was a guy on the Elks side, which is Trey Ford. I thought he he's hard to bring down in the open field. He's
mhm,
he's fast and elusive.
athlete.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, hey,
he's
this
an
like
athlete.
he's the quarterback, right? And then his brother's the DB and his brother's in the
Yeah,
NFL. Okay.
right.
And they're twins. And I'm not saying they're built identical, but one of them was tasked with being a quarterback, which is the most difficult, multiple skill involved position in pro sports, in my opinion, in the opinion of many. And then his brother, like, plays the position where you have to be the most reactive, the most agile, the most athletic and fast. So when one brother's in the NFL and the other is an undersized quarterback in the CFL, Trey Ford's got a little something,
Oh
right?
yeah.
And for Chris Jones to be the one who drafted him, to be the one that says, we want you to be our number two as a rookie. Yeah, they got Kyle Oxley there as well behind Taylor Cornelius, but I think Trey Ford's future is super bright. I think he has got just a very dynamic skill set, and the quarterbacking, I say that kind of in the traditional sense, the quarterbacking of sitting in the pocket, going through your reads and your progressions, running an offense, reading defenses, seeing what they're giving you, seeing what they're taking away, all that will come in time. Not everybody's Nathan Rourke, right? Where you get a year under Michael Riley and then you're off to the races, shattering records, right? I think Trey Ford, even Taylor Cornelius, I think Edmonton's in a better position at quarterback than a lot of teams in the CFL today.
Well, they better be because I would counter that by saying I don't know why they are so high on Taylor Cornelius as their number one.
I'll tell you
This
why.
guy, he's not very accurate though, Darren.
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
that, and I don't unless he's improved that, they're going to be in trouble.
I'm
I know he's
very
got all
curious
these
to see.
weapons.
Well, yeah, I'll be diplomatic about it. I'll be fair about it or balanced about it. I'm curious to see how much he can grow in year two. What I know for sure, what we all know for sure about Taylor Cornelius is he is big, he is strong, He can throw the football probably harder and
He's got
farther.
heavy balls.
Pardon me?
He's got heavy balls. He throws a heavy ball,
Throws
apparently. That's
a
what they
heavy
always
ball.
say. Yeah.
I don't know about that plural assessment by you.
He throws heavy
Whew,
balls. He has heavy balls.
excuse me. Uh, and he can run, right? He
Yeah,
can
he
run the
can.
football. So I think there is opportunity there for Taylor Cornelius to become a solid starter in the CFL. Yeah, I really,
Yeah,
really do. Some people think I'm nuts for saying that, but
no, I
he
don't think
has
you're nuts for
everything.
saying that. I think he's got Eugene Lewis there. You just have
Yeah,
to
that
throw it
helps.
up to Lewis, right? And you've got Dylan Mitchell, and you've got a bunch of weapons there for him to work with where he doesn't maybe have to be super accurate. But even in this game, with some of the Eugene Lewis was in there. They had some starting receivers in there. I didn't think he looked all that accurate. He was missing some easier throws, but uh it's preseason, so I'm not going to make an assessment on it now.
You're just gonna assess his balls.
Yeah, exactly. They're still heavy. They're still heavy. Yes, my money.
Oh.
Oh, look at that. A sound
Uh,
effect.
so in the future, I think Zach will, towards the regular season, you and I will go through our regular game day after dark nods, as we call them,
Right.
with our happy honker, our game balls. We'll hand out every game. What else am I missing?
Oh, Westwood wide to the right,
Westwood's wide to the
Bonfire
right
Burning
moment.
Point, Walby's
Walby's Warrior.
Warrior.
Oh, yes. See, I needed you to remind me. It's been a while. But yeah, we'll get into the bonfire burning point. Maybe we'll just do a bonfire burning point today on the premiere of Game Day After Dark. Thanks to everybody for joining us. But as we wrap it up, what do you think is your bonfire burning point today? And it doesn't have to be. I don't think it has to be about like who won or the moment that changed the
Right.
game, but the moment that burns for you. You
Well,
better not talk about Cornelius's balls.
no, 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 no. You don't want burned heavy balls.
Footballs.
That's getting into bad.
Footballs.
Honestly, it kind of is about the game, at the beginning of the third quarter, the Elks kind of made a game of it. They had a 9-minute drive that was capped off with that. Was it Trey Ford he ran into the end zone and he almost did a front flip into the end zone. They got I think they tied the game. Did they not at 17? And
Mm-hmm.
then right after that, it was the
Mm.
Piggy drive, which she capped off with a 45-yard run on an option. Uh, and yeah, I think it was a read option, and he just ran around the edge for the touchdown. And then the Bombers went up for good to make it 25-7. I think it was 25-17. So, or 24-17. Sorry. So to me, that was the bonfire burning point, and it was hot. That was a run by that was a scorching run by Piggy T.
Piggy T. Yeah, you know what? I think those two plays by him, as you just talked about, the second down conversion and then the touchdown, the way that he punched it in pretty seamlessly on the uh short yardage touchdown run on the Zach Collaros drive. Very encouraging. Very, very encouraging. Drew Brown looked good. The first team offense looked good. It's tough to say about the defense. I'm not going to, it would be easy to say, yeah, they looked good, but we'll see. We'll see. My bonfire burning point will be Zach Collaros just leading two touchdown drives, right?
Yeah.
Getting out of the pocket, finding Kenny Lawler on a double move, getting behind the Elks defensive coverage. That's just a nice thing to see early in the season to get those. This is what the preseason's about. Get the good feelings flowing a little bit, right? For these guys, it's been a long winter of working out in dark gyms. It's been a long spring of 2-a-day practices, 4-hour workouts, playing against the same guys over and over and over again, so often without pads, without tackling, without real hits, without real competition. They went out there today, strapped them on. and went out and hit somebody in the mouth. And for Winnipeg to come away with the victory, great thing. 25-23 the final. But just to get those good feelings going for every individual on that team, for the coaching staff, and hey, for all you out there, for the fans, get those good feelings going. We got a great season ahead here with your favorite football team, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And yeah, we're going to keep you covered top to bottom on Bonfire Sports.
Oh, heck yeah, buddy. I'm excited. This was kind of just like a little preseason little hors d'oeuvre, and then we're gonna get to the main course. This
I
was
like it.
fun. Heck, by the end of the season, we might be calling Winnipeg Winnipeggy,
Oh, you never
right?
know.
If
You never
if
know.
if Tyler Pigram or Tyrell Pigram, whatever his name is, continues like this, I know this was just preseason, right? And I know he was playing against backup, so he outran, but we'll see. I'm excited. I think he's the one I'm most excited to see maybe on June 2nd when they finish their preseason schedule against the Riders at home.
Yeah, I'm with you. If you're not going to the game on June 2nd at IG Field, head over to Shannon's Irish Pub. Pre-game, post-game, game day specials, even during the Jets season. Like, get downtown where the action is almost anytime. You can go see our good friends at Shannon's Irish Pub, 175 Carlton Street, underneath the streets of downtown Winnipeg, just a saucer pass from True North Square. 21 beers on tap. They got you covered top to bottom in the beverage department, but underrated is the food. Go check them out. They will take good care of you. See, it's happening again. How did I do that?
What?
One of these days, I will figure this out. But well, I guess on that note, maybe I should just sign off. Hey.
Well, I saw the Shannons thing come up.
Oh, the Shannon's thing, yes. But I'm talking about the outro video.
The outro video. Oh yeah. Are they still doing the wild boar burger there?
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. You're gonna have to go check them out.
Check them out,
ShannonsIrishPub.ca.
Shannons.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. Get them on Instagram too. Shannon's Irish Pub. You don't want to miss it.
Nice.
Okay, we
Nice.
will see you Wednesday for Bonfire midweek, pregame and postgame. June 1st, June 2nd, with that Bombers second preseason game on June 2nd at IG Field. Schnitz, good to see you, buddy. Take care, man.
You too, brother. And nice to see all the fire starters, everyone in the chat. Jeff, Waiters, James in the Peg, Dark Moon, whoever you are, Cappy D, Sandy. Good to
Tamara.
see you all. Arlen
Yep.
and Vicky, who was in Edmonton.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool. Nice to see
totally.
you all
Go give
and
a
everyone
thumbs up.
else.
Go give a thumbs up and go tell your friends about Bonfire Sports. We will see you Wednesday, maybe even a little bit earlier. I'd have some content here on the channel. Take care, everybody.